There is a moment many people experience but rarely name. You wake up, go through your day, speak to people, do what is required of you, and yet, underneath it all, there is a quiet sense of disconnection. Not dramatic sadness, not panic, but a persistent feeling that you are somehow misaligned with yourself and the world around you. You feel smaller than you should. You second-guess your decisions. You feel alone even when you're not physically alone. This state is not new. It has existed across eras, societies and conditions. What changes is the language we use to describe it. Today we call it low self-esteem, loneliness and identity confusion. But historically it has always been a survival issue before it was a psychological one. When you strip away modern labels, what you're looking at is a breakdown in inner structure. Humans have always needed three things to function well: a sense of personal worth, a place of belonging, and a clear understanding of who they are in relation to the group. When any of these weaken, the individual becomes unstable, not in a moral sense, but in a practical one. They hesitate, they over-adapt, they tolerate conditions that, erode them further. Over time, this becomes a quiet form of self-abandonment. Low self-esteem often begins as a rational response to repeated signals from the environment. When effort is ignored, when contribution is dismissed, when boundaries are crossed without consequence, the mind draws a conclusion. So it decides that speaking up is unsafe, that, visibility is costly, and that shrinking is in fact a form of protection. This is not weakness, it is adaptation. The problem begins when the adaptation outlives the environment that created it. What once kept you safe now, honestly, keeps you small. Loneliness operates in a similar way, but it's often misunderstood. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the absence of resonance. Throughout history, individuals who did not share values, language or purpose with their group often experienced profound isolation, even while surrounded by others. In modern life, this is, amplified. You can interact constantly and still feel unseen. You can be included and still feel unrecognized. This kind of loneliness teaches the nervous system to stay guarded. It teaches the mind to expect disconnection. Eventually, it just becomes easier to withdraw than to risk disappointment again. Identity confusion emerges when a person has spent just a bit too long responding instead of choosing. Historically, identity was reinforced through role, craft, duty, and, shared struggle. These days, identity is fluid, fragmented, and quite often shaped externally. When a person is praised for adapting, pleasing or enduring, rather than for choosing and directing, their sense of self becomes reactive. They know who they are supposed to be, but not who they are. Over time, this creates an internal fog where decisions feel heavy and direction feels absent. The way forward is not confidence in the motivational sense. Historically, confidence was not something one felt. It was something one accumulated through action and evidence. Self-esteem grows when your mind can point to proof that you act in alignment with your values. This begins with small, controlled commitments. When you decide to do something and follow through, even if it is minor, you send a signal inward that you are reliable. Over time, this rebuilds internal trust. For example, choosing a daily walk and completing it regardless of mood is not about fitness. It is about restoring credibility with yourself. Loneliness is addressed not by chasing connection, but by stabilizing identity. When you know what you stand for, who you are willing to be, and what you will not compromise, your interactions change. You stop seeking approval and begin seeking alignment. Practically, this means choosing environments that reflect your values rather than your fears. If your sense of belonging depends on self-erasure, it is not belonging. Historically, individuals survived harsh conditions not because they were accepted everywhere, but because they were deeply rooted somewhere. Identity confusion resolves through articulation and action. You simply cannot think your way into clarity. Historically, identity was, forged through doing. Choose a principle that matters to you, such as honesty, discipline, or responsibility, and practice it consistently in observable ways. If honesty matters, speak truthfully even when it costs you comfort. If discipline matters, maintain structure when motivation fades. Identity becomes clear when behavior aligns repeatedly with values. Over time, you just stop asking who you are because your actions answer for you. What ties all of this together is, structure. Structure stabilizes the individual. Daily routines, clear standards, and deliberate choices. These create an internal environment where self-esteem can grow, loneliness can soften, and identity can, really solidify. This is not abstract, it is practical. Decide what you do each morning. Decide how you respond to disrespect. Decide what you will commit to and what you will walk away from. These decisions accumulate. Over time, they become character. History shows us that individuals who endured uncertainty, isolation, and loss did not survive by, simply feeling better. They survived by building inner order when outer order failed. The same principle applies now. You do not need to reinvent yourself. What you need is to return to yourself through disciplined, grounded action. If this guide helped you see these struggles differently, do consider subscribing to the channel for more long-form, serious explorations of the human condition, resilience and survival across time. Share this with someone who needs a steadier framework, not just surface advice. And stay with us, because honestly, understanding the past is often the clearest way to navigate the present.